A brief history. You're going to have to not know that for your test. Why clone humans? Advanced cell technology. Cloning can be used for replacement tissues and possible spare parts, keeping an embryo that could be used to generate an organ for transplant. Being an exact genetic match, there would be no rejection by the recipient. There's great gains in scientific knowledge. Infertile couples could have more advantage to producing children, and we could have a chance to eliminate defective genes from one or both adults, and therefore we would not have to deal with diseases, whatnot. Now these are the moral issues you'll see on your quiz. If allowed, human clones would have all the legal and moral rights as their original donors, therefore it would be immoral to experiment on them. Go ahead.
I just have to ask because it's there. Was that third one seriously one of their arguments? Child lost in an accident?
Yeah.
That's kind of disgusting.
Oh, yeah. Until you have, let me show you. Up in northern Michigan, there's a young lady had twins, and one of them, they're both in the lake together, and one of them drowned. And there was a conversation up there that if we had cloning, you could bring the child back in a sense. You could clone the child and you'd have your child again. It would be however many years difference, but in essence, you'd have both your twins back.
You know how to respond to that?
So if cloning happened, would they be able to clone the mind?
The mind?
Yeah.
Well, no, see, that's the problem with cloning. Cloning doesn't make an exact duplicate.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, you look at twins. I mean, they're clones, but they're different.
Yes.
They're always uniquely different. So if you cloned yourself, there would still be a unique difference about you.
What that would do is just basically allow the mother or father to cope with the loss more than anything. It's not their same
Sure.
offspring, it's the 2.0 version.
You lose a child in combat. Hey, we're trying to bring mammoths back and dinosaurs. I mean, you think that that's not on the table, that they're not trying to do this?
That's different though.
Not to some people, but you're right. It is different. We're not mammals and we're not dinosaurs. So it just raises a lot of moral issues, and no one's come up with the answers for these. Would it really be a human being if it was a clone? If it was raised in a test tube, if we had that technology? Would it really be a human being? Would it have the same moral rights? Would it have full moral standing? You know?
Doesn't your brain control the rest of your body? Doesn't it make it harm? Not like it has functions that give you control over your arms and stuff. So if you make a clone, are they just like a dummy? You can't move or anything? You just
Who knows?
No, a clone would be a living
so it would be
being.
alive, but it wouldn't have its own mind.
No, it would. I don't know why you would think it wouldn't. It would.
It just doesn't have the same memories. For example, let's say if I pick up this computer and then there's another clone of me, my phone's not going to remember that I just picked up the computer. It's just you'd be able to move just like a regular, another person. It's just that you wouldn't have the same memories or something.
Consciousness is part of the 23 and 23 chromosome blueprint, and part of it is that you have a mind that can think, self-aware, self-conscious, and rational. That's part of the 23-23 mixture. It's whether we do it naturally, whether we do it artificially, or whether we do it through cloning, but the product is going to be the same and have the same capacities. At least we assume it is. I mean, I don't know if anyone's cloned a human being yet, but the assumption is it's going to be just like a person. The moral question is it morally right to do that, and what would that person be? Would they have all the same rights that you and I have? Would they have all the same capacities that you and I have? And one of the things you saw in the video is, what if we could genetically make someone smarter? Look, you don't get born with a 200 IQ. I mean, it's the way we test people to decide how bright they are. Now, some people have better capacity than others. Could we engineer that in? Could we engineer music into someone, sports into someone? We don't know yet. We know those are natural things that occur in the natural reproduction of people. But we don't know that yet. We have no idea. We have recessive traits, we have recessive genes. We have no idea what's going to come out of the soup.
I think that's a problem.
Well, it is a problem. Hang on, go ahead.
I saw this thing where people people who have like twins, especially identical, there's cases like where one could absorb the other twin in the womb. And like with cloning, like what if you can like take like whatever that absorption or something, or like some kind of membrane that you absorb and like clone yourself, like because technically when you have identical twins, it is yourself. Still, they look different, like still different. So how would it really be wrong though? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those are important and interesting questions. We don't know. That's the problem, people. We don't know. And yet it's out there, and because it's being advanced, usually ethics follows. Ethics doesn't proceed. So once these things happen, we have to decide what are we going to do with them. So what this was about was trying to figure out what do we do with it before we have to do something with it. And the answer is that politically we haven't decided what we're going to do with it. And we have no control over what the rest of the world is doing. Once the Chinese did it, the English decided, we decided too, we have urged very strongly, we want to get in on this as well. Because whoever has the breakthrough, if it's positive, great advancements. If it turns out negative, might be a great advancement, clone army. You just don't know. What is known is that it's happening. And it presents an incredible issue, morally, ethically, politically, just as humanity. It presents an incredible issue for us.
Okay, so you say clone army, right? And it would be, and in the notes it said that it would be immoral to experiment on the clones, right? But,
Well, some people think it would be.
yeah, but if you make a clone army, then you're kind of forcing them to do things that they might not want to do, and I think that would be immoral too.
Do I have any Marines in here? The Army doesn't do it quite as effectively, but they break you down and you become a product of retraining. Go ahead.
I don't think actual cloning is wrong, because it's just science. I think what would be wrong is like what people's intentions are doing. What's your purpose?
That's what behavior is all about, right?
Yeah, that's what the ethical.
By the way, how hard would it be to clone someone?
I think it'd be very hard.
Really? See, because they cloned Dolly out of one cell from her mother's, turned out it was her udder, a skin cell. And they cloned her. And we did the same thing with monkeys. We did the same thing with cattle in Massachusetts. I think it was in 2001. So if I shake someone's hand and I just scrape their skin just a little bit. You know, women who rape, we're always looking for DNA evidence, and we find that with skin cells, all I need is one if I've perfected the process. And then, you ever see the comedy shows where someone shows up in front of a mirror and they have someone who looks similar to them on the other side, but there's no glass, it's not a mirror, and someone will do this and the one on the other side does this. And they do this little mime there and everybody thinks it's hilarious because they're miming one another. And so one day you bump into yourself.
You wouldn't recognize yourself.
Oh, I recognize my defective brother. I recognize him every time I see him.
See, but this science doesn't think you wouldn't be able to recognize yourself because you're seeing yourself differently.
Oh, I don't know that that's true. I hear your argument. I don't know if that's true. Look, let me tell you a quick story, and then I have to get back to the notes because I want you to get 100 on this quiz. So Corey is my baby. He's well, I can't tell you how old he is, but he's my baby. So he's 6, and he's never seen my brother. But he knows I have this twin. So he sees pictures of my brother, okay? So then one day I go to a 7-Eleven and Maria Brameyer's there, and I haven't seen Maria in a while. She's behind the counter. And she sees me coming and she goes, "Larry Poller." And there's a guy standing there and he goes, "You're Larry Poller." And I don't know who this guy is, and I'm not about to admit to anything yet. And I go, "Yeah?" And he goes, "Everybody in this town tells me you look just like me." And I look at him for a few minutes. This is a real story. And I look at him and I said, "No." I said, "You do resemble me somewhat." I said, "What's your name anyway?" He says, "Reggie Corliss." And he happened to be a pastor, came to town. I said, "Oh, okay." No, I don't want to shake your hand. So then I went my merry way. So then we have a kind of a cantata in town, and we're in the auditorium, and it's halftime. Well, you don't call it halftime. What do you call it? It's intermission. And Corey's got to go to the bathroom. Okay, so we go to the bathroom, and he's been in this place before. So on the way back, someone stops and want to talk to me, and I said, "Corey, you remember where Mama?" I said, "Go and sit by Mama." So he goes. And I'm talking to this person, and suddenly I feel, and I look down, it's Corey, and he's jerking on my pant leg. I said, "What's going on, bub?" And he goes, "Uncle Jerry's here." I said, "Show me." And he points out Reggie Corliss. And I said, "Isn't that weird that he sees the similarity?" I would see myself, trust me. That was kind of a long way of saying that, but I would see myself. It would be a defective me. Look, it would be a defective me right away. You know that right away.
You do have a familiar face, though. Like, I feel like I've seen you before. Yeah.
I do.
Oh, that's on the list.
Is this what you mean? Okay, so, but the point is, for your quiz, how hard would it be to clone someone without their permission? I'm not going to touch you, but you know, one hair strand. You ever see those detective movies? You want something to drink, you want something to eat, and there's always something left. That's all I need. Just one little drop of saliva these days is just great. It's all a hairbrush when you're not there. Toothbrush. If it works the way we think it'll work, one cell. Welcome to the brave new world, Aldous Huxley. He wrote that back in the 1600s, and here we are 400 years later, knocking on the door. In fact, we've opened the door. It's just whether or not we're going to go completely through it or not. So, more nuts and bolts. What would the moral status of the clone itself be? Do people have a moral and legal right to reproduce by any means possible, even asexual reproduction? Now, if you believe that a woman has a right of privacy to control everything that happens in and to her body, would a woman therefore, under those conditions, have a legal right to reproduce herself? Well, sure, she's in control of her body. The law would justify that. We'd have to go to court and get them to agree that this is enough similarity to justify that, but that could be justifiable. Some people say this is not reproduction, it's manufacturing. We have no right to manufacture human beings. What about the psychological rights of the clone? Are they inferior? Would they feel inferior? Has their identity been infringed upon? Will they feel like freaks who are stuck with the deficiencies of their sibling? Because we all have deficiencies as well as assets. And we can't help but be stuck with ours, but what if we created someone else and now they're stuck with them as well? Or they get more than we got, because nature's still involved. So you want to play piano and you can't, and your sibling or your clone can. And they get very famous. I went to school with Billy Joel. He was 2 years behind us. He was a dumb greaser like all other greasers were back then. And then he comes out of high school, and you know who Billy Joel is? Am I talking to the, okay. The guy he's living on, what is it, Hampton up north? I mean, the guy's a multi-millionaire. He had all those talents when he was with us, but he could just sing in the choir. That's all he could do, is sing in the choir, and he was a greaser. Now what if his clone could not play piano and ended up, I don't want to be derogatory, but flipping burgers for 30 years because he just didn't have the talents that his clone had. So those are important questions, people. So nuts and bolts, any questions about the nuts and bolts? This is your A on the quiz, people. So this is a summation. In the United States, there are no federal laws specifically regarding human cloning. There are currently no federal laws in the U.S. which ban cloning completely, and any such laws would raise difficult constitutional questions similar to issues raised by abortion. Now, I want to show you two quick videos in support of this, and they make very good arguments.
The issue of embryonic stem cell research is surrounded with controversy, but much of that controversy is the result of misinformation. Dr. Sean Morrison